Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Legal Diversity Pipeline Program Best Practices discussion. I want to make a very special welcome to those of you who are new to the Street Law family and those of you who are new to our programming. If you would like to learn more about street law and its programs and publications, please visit our website at streetlaw.org. I'm Joy Dingle, Director of Legal Diversity Pipeline Programs, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today. I welcome any questions that you may have after today's webinar. You can reach me by email at jdingle@streetlaw.org. Before we dive into the agenda, I wanted to mention a couple of items about the Legal Diversity Pipeline Program. For those of you who are not familiar with the program, it is designed to inspire underrepresented students who are in high school, to support them in building their skills and confidence, and to encourage these students to enter the legal profession. Approximately 1,900 legal volunteers impact over 5,000 students across the United States each year, and street law is always looking to increase this impact. Today, we are going to be talking about two specific subjects. In the first part of the webinar, we will focus on celebrating student strengths, and you will hear from two master educators who participate in the Legal Diversity Pipeline Program. And in the second part of our program, you will hear from site leaders who are busy coordinating multiple sites and organizations as they implement this program. To participate in today's webinar, please use the chat function in Zoom. If you're having any technical difficulties, please use the panelist tab in the chat function to send your questions and concerns to a street law staff member, and that person will assist you. To ask questions of the speakers for today, please select the Panelists and Participants tab and type in your question. A few of you have submitted questions in advance, and so I know that today's conversation will be a lively one. For our first portion on celebrating student strengths, I'm happy to welcome Mr. William Scott of Armstrong High School in Richmond, Virginia. Mr. Scott is Street Law's Educator of the Year. Mrs. Vicki Taylor also joins us from Potomac High School in Oxon Hill, Maryland, and both teachers are not only veteran teachers, but have participated in the Legal Diversity Pipeline Program for a few years. So hello and welcome. And Mr. Scott, I'd like to ask the first question of you, and that is, what do you wish more volunteers in the Legal Diversity Pipeline Program understood about your students?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for participating. How I'd like to answer that is really, I got that from my students, the answer. My students want the volunteers to be, obviously they're volunteers and they want to be there and they want to be at the school and they're already invested in the program. But my students wanted more of a personal relationship with the street law mentors. They didn't want the volunteers to feel like they had to step on eggshells around them or be worried about saying the wrong things. They just wanted to have an open and honest engagement with them. So I think that's the best answer. So whatever the kids need, not so much what they want all the time, but what they need, and a little bit of what they want, then that always helps.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. And Mrs. Taylor, I'd like to ask you the same question. What do you wish more volunteers understood about your students? Please go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hi, I'm Vicki Taylor from Potomac High School. Actually, I have the opportunity to talk to the volunteers before they enter the classroom to explain to them about my students. And my students have a tendency to really just engage with the volunteers because I have prepared them for them. The volunteers come in my classroom, they don't bite their tongue about their failures nor their successes. They explain to them that they will run into some obstacles along the way, don't give up. And I find once they open up to the students like that, they have won them completely over. They are back and forth with, I want to be this, I want to be that. And I find that channel of communication is so important to them. Although I prepare them, tomorrow we're having a volunteer. I need for you all to come up with all the questions you need to ask. And that is an open line of communication.
Thank you. So to both of you, which teaching strategies do you find resonate the best with your students? Mr. Scott, let's come back to you.
Which teaching strategies resonate the most?
Yes.
Hands-on, without a doubt. You know, having them. I'm trying to think of an excellent example right now, and it's leaving my mind. I don't want to waste too much time, but just hands-on activities where the kids can really be engaged and give their feedback in whatever format that is.
And Mrs. Taylor, what about your students? What resonates best with them?
My students love to do role playing. I mean, when they break up into groups and they act like they're the judges, the jurors, they enjoy anything role playing. I get to speak out. They love to speak because that's a policy in my classroom. You're gonna learn how to talk. You're not gonna be shy. We're gonna just speak out. Nobody's wrong. And the volunteers give them an opportunity to do this. Especially when I have like lawyers come in there and I have so many students that's eager to be an attorney. Oh man, they just speak right out. They just go for it. And I love that, the role playing, I would say.
That's fantastic. You know, some of us in the street law offices have had an opportunity to observe your students during the program because we are relatively close to you. And one thing I remember in particular is students taking on a mediation around a contract matter. And after the volunteers gave them the fact pattern and they divided up into teams, it really was remarkable to see just how seriously the students took the activity, but also how much fun they had with it.
Yes, and we thank you. We love the volunteers coming in.
Great. Well, they always comment that they enjoy your students, and so Mr. Scott, even as you were saying that anything that is interactive gets your students engaged, are there any particular memories you have of some of the past programs where students have been especially engaged?
Well, this was the 5th year of our street law program at Armstrong, and what I always look forward to is the culminating event where our partners are Capital One, the legal department at Capital One here in Richmond, and they bring us out to the campus and you know, take good care of us. But we play so many games, and I think the biggest activity that always hits home for our kids is the diversity panel that Capital One, led by Brent Timberlake, puts together, where other professionals share how they reach their goals, and their vision board is always a winner as well. So just seeing everything come together, and then the students that have participated in the program really share what they've learned, and then, you know, have the opportunity at my school to pull in kids 9 through 12. So I have kids, you know, there were 9th graders, 10th graders. Hey, Mr. Scott, when are we going to start street law this year? So, you know, all those things are pluses for me. Yeah.
That's very nice to hear. And so my last question to both of you is, right now with all of the changes due to the pandemic, we are occasionally hearing from young people that they were once very excited about the idea of pursuing a legal career. They were making plans for law school, college first, since they're in high school, and then eventually law school, or some other program that leads them to legal training. But we do hear that, unfortunately, that some young people are feeling slightly discouraged just because of the dramatic changes that have happened in the past couple months. What are if you had, a magic wand and you could have your volunteers appear magically today in front of your students, what would you like the volunteers to do to encourage your students?
Want me to go?
Yes, please.
What I would love to see happen with the pandemic is that I had volunteers to come in my room. First, we will assess the students to see exactly what are your interests now and what do we need to do to get you back on track. I think if the volunteers came in the room and talked to the students and let them know, well, this is just one thing that happened, it's not a complete setback, we have to move forward, and failures are going to happen, but we never look at them like that. We look at failures as a way to build on what we want to do, and what's, our success track may change, the path may change, but we can still do it. I think if we had enough volunteers to come in and kind of like talk to the kids, let them know, it's not a loss. We just need to pick ourselves up and keep moving forward. It all can be accomplished. It may take a little longer, but we can get there. And I think that would be great.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. And Mr. Scott, I'll give you the last word on this. If you had a magic wand, what would you wish that the volunteers could do to inspire your students?
Again, I think the biggest thing that our volunteers have done is speak to all the diversity, all the adversity, all the hurdles they've had to go through in life, to be able to speak to them and put them in a position to, to be heard. So if I had a magic wand, I would just have them, speak to that and talk about, maybe opportunities, especially for my seniors. What opportunities are out there for them to find success, and speak to the fact that success is different for everyone. Everybody's not going to be rich. Everybody's not going to be famous. But for our kids to find success in life and be happy with themselves and continue to progress. So I think that's what I would want my volunteers to, push. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, both of you, Mr. Scott and Mrs. Taylor. We really appreciate your taking the time and sharing your insights with us. We are grateful for the work that you're doing, not only as partner teachers, but as teachers generally. Teachers right now are taking on tremendous responsibilities in the midst of the pandemic. And so I wanted to thank both of you and all the teachers who are out there joining us today, and those who are probably a little too busy to join us today. We really appreciate all that you're doing. Thank you very much. We're going to segue into our next portion. And I'd like to introduce the next set of speakers for the Leadership by Example portion. We are joined by Ms. Davina Biddle of Anthem Incorporated in Falls Church, Virginia, by Ms. Josephine Chang of GE Capital in Norwalk, Connecticut, and Mr. Nick Whaley of Foley & Lardner LLP in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So thanks again for joining us, and I appreciate that you're taking time to share your insights with us as busy people who organize multiple sites and often multiple volunteers, and sometimes those volunteers are from other organizations. So, Davina, I will start with you and ask, which specific tools do you use to communicate with your volunteers and to keep them organized?
Yeah, I think the greatest tool we have is just really early planning. So we do video conference WebEx, which is similar to what we're doing right now, and just keeping the lines of communication open. Across Anthem, we have 7 sites, and there is a leader for each of those sites. So as you can imagine, there are a number of volunteers that we're each coordinating with to make sure that we have a successful program. So at the beginning of the year, I would say January, I will send out an email to all of the site leads to ask them to confirm their schedule for the year. So that's a trigger almost to let them know to begin planning if they haven't done so already. Half of our volunteers have a spring program, and the other half work with the fall program. So that gives plenty of runway for people to gather their volunteers, start thinking about lessons that they want to teach, and to just really reach out to teachers too. It's important to have a good relationship with the teacher and school that we're working with. And as they're planning their schedule for the year, it's great to start those conversations early.
Thank you. Very sound advice. And Josephine, I'd like to ask you the same.
Yeah, so at GE, we also have quite a few locations in the United States, and we've been running the Legal Diversity Pipeline program mostly in the US. And I, agree with Davina, how to coordinate. Early planning is important. And I would go even, above and beyond that because of personnel changes, organizational changes. We make sure we keep in touch with, our people changes, right? They may change location, they may, take on an international program. And the good thing about street law is it's not just a US organization, it has programs abroad as well. So when we have, our colleagues internationally, we want to make sure they understand what we do in the US. And our international folks will also chime in as to what international opportunities there may be for street law. And we get connected that way. And sometimes our in-house legal and compliance department personnel go on to, other organizations. They can actually promote and continue street law programs even outside of GE. And of course, we partner up with our law firms like Nick to make sure we do the right planning, we get engaged, and we don't just call on the volunteers when we are running a spring program or fall program. We keep in touch throughout the year to make sure there's celebration of street law events or other areas that street law covers, so that our entire department, as well as our law firm partners, understand street law doesn't just run one program, but run other programs, so that, if they're interested more, to rotate among programs, they can have the opportunity to do that too.
Thank you, Josephine. I think many people who participate in the Legal Diversity Pipeline program are not always aware of the other programming that is available through street law. So thank you for commenting on that. And Nick, let me come to you. You are uniquely situated because your law firm works with a very large Association of Corporate Counsel chapter, and you also serve a community-based organization. So what sorts of tools are you using to keep in touch with people and keep them organized?
Yeah, we are communicating with lots of different folks from lots of different organizations. We do pretty much what I call a mini law school each spring semester. So from early February to end of May, we have the students come to Foley's campus 6 different times, and we have law school classes for them. So we have 3 different legal topics, 6 different classes. They get to role play on all different legal topics. And so we have 50 students, 50 volunteers, and 18 organizations involved. And then after the spring semester, we have a internship program where it's going to be about 3 to 5 interns that will have paid internships through our firm or through some of our partner organizations. So as both panelists have already said, early communication, communicated early and often. We usually start our classes in February, and September we're already planning what to do, because we're going to do 3 or 4 trainings before the end of the year. We're going to promote the program before the end of the year, and I like to have a schedule of who's volunteering when for all the classes by early January of all 50 different volunteers coming from, 18 different organizations. So I have a master list of those folks that have volunteered in the past, and I like to give them email alerts about, hey, this person just got a scholarship and got into UW-Madison. Hey, we're going to have a graduation party after the end of our law school program. Do you want to attend? Do you have any swag to give out? Offer up if folks want to take on an internship. So early planning and promoting the program throughout the year, I think is also a great strategy, just so folks recall that, oh yeah, Street Law's happening again next year. I'm excited for it. I'm going to sign up in advance. Maybe we'll give them some swag and a graduation bag. Maybe we'll take on an intern this year. And so that everyone's aware that it's going to happen each year, every year on February. And so that we get all those volunteers to handle the students that we have. And we also reach out to our local Boys and Girls Club chapter and work with them closely. And they're asking us to take on 100 students. So I don't know if I'll be able to do that, but it's been a fun challenge so far.
Wow, that's great. Well, busy people stay busy, right? And I can hear, your enthusiasm, which is contagious. There have been a couple of times when you've shared your master calendar with me, and I looked at it and I thought, that is positively amazing. So, so congratulations for keeping all those folks organized. You also mentioned that that your program offers summer internships, and I think especially those who are in the audience today who are newer to us, many of our programs which have participated for a number of years and have the type of stability that you're hearing about from today's panelists, eventually end up adding some sort of enhancement to their program, which helps students further their academic or career goals. And so the internships that Nick mentioned are one of just many varieties of activities that sites can add to help students in their journey toward a legal career. So the other question I wanted to ask all of you is, because you are so busy, you have day jobs in addition to implementing the Legal Diversity Pipeline program, what sorts of tasks do you delegate to others? Davina, let me come back to you.
So I think it starts with having a dedicated site lead for a particular location. So again, we have 7 sites, and there is a sense of enthusiasm within our department. People love giving back to the community, and so there's always someone who wants to be on point for this program, which is great, because in order for it to succeed, you need to have enthusiastic and dedicated people. So delegating someone to be on point for a particular site is huge, because they are then responsible for coordinating the volunteers that you need, developing the relationship with the school. And so that person then delegates out work to the rest of their team. And then they will, the ultimate site lead will report that information back to me as I'm managing all of the sites for Anthem and communicating with you, Joy, on how things are going, what sites are having issues. So it makes it very efficient for me to understand what potential issues may be. I think someone raised a concern that there may be turnover perhaps at the school or even within our own department of folks who have volunteered. So those issues kind of bubble up through the site leads, and then I can discuss them with you and strategize on how we can get things resolved so that we can continue with our programs.
Absolutely, and it's always a pleasure working with your site leaders. They are indeed very strong, and I think some folks who are participating in today's webinar will be relieved to know that they don't have to take on everything by themselves. It is okay to delegate. So Josephine, I will come to you next. You're busy with lots of different activities, so which tasks are you most likely to delegate?
Yeah, you know me by now. I don't actually use the word delegate, and I don't view it that way. I view it as, sharing the volunteering opportunities, right, with other functional colleagues that we have at GE Capital or GE across the board. And, our law department, fortunate for us, have many different functional colleagues who are not lawyers, who may be paralegals, who may be environmental specialists, government affairs, or compliance professionals, and some of them are, risk professionals in the insurance industry, right? All these professionals understand the importance of driving diversity in the overall legal community, because in the overall legal community to us are not just a bunch of lawyers, right? There are other professionals within the bigger, broader legal community. So we ask for volunteers if they believe in the cause, which is civic education, right? It's not just driving diversity for the legal community or the lawyer community specifically. And someone mentioned, I think Mrs. Scott mentioned, that the students enjoy a diversity panel. We'll continue to do that, have different leaders, right? When they come into our conference room, they get the opportunity to hear not just from lawyers, but also from other professionals how they coordinate and how they liaise with legal professionals. And then sometimes, they may be interested in other professions that are within the broader legal community. So my tool that I use is basically, influence other non-lawyers to be interested in civic education, maintaining rule of law, right? And also the broader legal diversity pipeline. And they're all passionate, like Davina said, they come in with passion and they want to do whatever they can do to contribute to the program, whether it's coordinating, whether it's actually teaching or coaching the students.
Thank you. It's very encouraging to hear you talk about the broader issue of civic education and civic engagement, and also you're using that as a platform to engage team members and to essentially have team building around a common cause. Thank you. And so Nick, I'll give the last word to you. What's happening in your program, and what sorts of tasks are you delegating?
Yeah, it's a big program for sure, and I totally agree with the concept of team building and sharing the volunteering opportunities. So we actually created a street law committee at Foley, and we have 6 Foley attorneys that are committed to different subsets of different tasks and chores. So my teammate Heba Hazah, who's on this call right now, me and her actually run simultaneous classes at the same time, so we don't have 50 students in one class, and we run the classes together. But we have someone that does customization for the content, for the lesson plans. We have someone that runs a summer mock trial. We have someone that's going to be point person on the internship program. And so, it's nice to have different roles for different people. 1, so I don't get too overwhelmed, and 2, so that it feels much more like a community feel and everyone else is getting involved as well.
That is terrific. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you all, Davina, Josephine, and Nick, for sharing your insights. It's absolutely incredible what you're able to get done. And we truly appreciate your continuing your partnerships with us in implementing the program. And I hope that today's audience receives some good tips about how to improve their programs and stay organized. While we were all talking, there was a question about how to keep the momentum going, and things what is street law doing in virtual space to help sites stay connected. So one thing that we're hearing from many of our sites is that while parts or all of their programs were disrupted this particular semester, some, with the help of their partner teachers and schools, are taking some activities online, including some panel discussions and question and answer sessions. So the volunteers can continue to be in touch with students, and sometimes teachers are touching on particular topics during their courses where it's relevant to have a legal volunteer participate. And so we are hearing that from multiple sites, and over this summer, in response to the need for more virtual learning, Street Law is exploring more ways in developing more activities that can be translated online Many of you who already participate with us know how interactive our classrooms are, and how we use our curriculum in ways to empower people and really have them and drive their own learning. And so we are looking for ways to honor that tradition while still having something available online. And so we continue to work very hard on that. And by the end of the summer, we hope to have more information available for the street law community, so that there are options available, with the assumption that at least at some schools there may be a continuing need for virtual learning or some form of online learning in addition to in-person instruction. And with that, first and foremost, I want to thank every panelist who participated today. It was absolutely a pleasure to have you with us. And it's really an inspiration to see what's happening at your programs. And we really can't thank you enough for participating today. And before we leave today, just a couple of notes that I wanted to share with our audience. You can follow Street Law on social media. And if you are not following us or haven't tagged us already, you can find us with the address Street Law Inc. on Facebook, on Twitter, on also on LinkedIn. That's the best way to follow us for updates. We also love to hear from sites that are implementing our programs. So please feel free to share updates, photos, and comments from students and volunteers. And last but not least, please keep in touch with me and let me know how I can be helpful to you as you implement your programs. We have a lot of energy coming into this upcoming school year. I know many of you are excited to get back on track or to try new classes and new approaches. And so I'm here as a resource for you and look forward to hearing your questions. Again, my email is jdingle@streetlaw.org. After today's presentation, a short survey will be available to you. I ask that you do take a moment to complete it. It will give us some feedback about today's webinar and what we can do to improve and also bring you more information in the future. Thank you very much for attending today's presentation, and enjoy the rest of your day.